Welcome back, students in Pathshala. In today's session, we will discuss the latter parts of the alimentary canal. In previous class, I talked about the mouth and the buccal cavity in detail. Today, we will start from the pharynx region. Pharynx is basically the region behind the buccal cavity, and this is actually a common passage of the food and air to pass. So the pharynx is basically a common space or a common region where the food material and the air passes. It helps, or the pharynx helps to move the food from our buccal cavity to the esophagus region. If accidentally small parts of food enter into our windpipe or our nasal pipe, we cough and the food actually thrown out from our nasal cavity back to pharynx, and the food then moves into the esophagus region. Next, we have a long pipe in our alimentary canal. So this long pipe is known as esophagus. This esophagus have no digestive action. This esophagus region, there is no digestion of food occurs. It only helps to the rhythmic movement or the rhythmic flow of food. The inner lining of this food pipe, guarded by different types of mucus secreting cells, from where the mucus continuously secretes to lubricate the lining of the esophagus, and also it helps to mix with the food material to make the food material pass easily or make the passage more easy. The lining of the esophagus guarded by different kinds of muscles. So there is, as I told you earlier, there is a rhythmic flow of food material. This rhythmic flow is known as peristalsis. Peristalsis, or it is also known as peristaltic movement. Peristaltic movement of food. So there is a rhythmic movement of food in esophagus by the help of the muscles in it. This activity is known as peristalsis, and this movement is known as peristaltic movement of food, and no digestion occurs in the esophagus region. Next part is of our alimentary canal is this J-shaped structure. This is known as stomach. So we have a J-shaped structure just beneath the esophagus region. This is known as stomach. Stomach has three parts in it. First part is known as the cardiac part. This one is cardiac part, the upper portion. The second one is fundus. The middle portion is known as fundus. And the last portion is known as pyloric region. This one is known as pyloric region. So this is the cardiac region, this is the fundus region, and this one is known as the pyloric region. This pyloric region is the junction between stomach and the small intestine area. So this pyloric region has a sphincter muscle in it, which helps the food to enter into the small intestine, and it prevents the backflow of the food to get in stomach. This sphincter muscle or sphincter region is known as pyloric sphincter. Pyloric sphincter. There is another sphincter muscle in this area. It means in the junction of esophagus and the stomach. It helps in backflow of food into esophagus area. The second part of the digestion process means the first process starts in buccal cavity and the second process starts in our stomach. Mainly the protein and the fat digestion started in the stomach area. So the stomach has a liquid enzyme like thing in it. This is known as the gastric juice. And this gastric juice composed of different things. First one is hydrochloric acid or HCl. Second one is the enzyme which digests the protein material, that is pepsin. Then it has the milk protein digesting enzyme, that is known as renin. Then it has some lipid digesting enzyme, that is known as gastric lipase, and lastly it has mucus in it. So stomach, in the wall of the stomach there are different kinds of cell which secrete the gastric juice, and the gastric juice is composed of different types of juices or different kinds of liquids, rather I say. First one is HCl or hydrochloric acid. Some cells of in the inner lining of the stomach secretes the hydrochloric acid. Next, some of the cells of the stomach inner lining secretes pepsin, which starts the breakdown process of the protein structure or the protein food that we ate. Then we have renin. Renin actually breaks down the soluble milk protein into insoluble form, that is casein. Then we have the gastric lipase. The gastric lipase breaks down the fats. Not it won't break the it won't break fat in fully like the smaller ones. It just starts the process of breakdown of the fat content in our food, and lastly it has mucus in it. So first let us discuss the HCl. HCl actually, the food we that engulfed or eat, it has some of the bacteria in it. So to kill those harmful bacteria, HCl reacted on the food material, or the HCl actually helps to kill the bacteria in our digested food. The inner part of the stomach also has some muscles in it, so that the stomach muscles helps to masticated food, helps to mixing the gastric juice with the masticated food, and it also helps to churn the food and break down the food into simpler forms. Then the second action of HCl is it helps to activate the pepsin enzyme. In inner lining of the stomach, pepsin actually resided as inactive form, that is pepsinogen. It is the inactive form of pepsin. The pepsin is the protein digesting enzyme. So, by the help of HCl, when the food just entered in the stomach, after that the HCl secretes, and HCl helps to activate the inactive form of pepsinogen to pepsin. Pepsin is active form. Now the pepsin enzyme, helps to break down the protein. So the active pepsin helps to break down the, this one is the first reaction. The second reaction is it helps protein material to break down into proteases plus peptone. So the active pepsin helps to break down the protein into protease and peptone, and this protease and peptone then enter into the small intestine area, where the last process of the protein digestion occurs. After that, I told you about another enzyme, which is renin, or milk protein digesting enzyme. So in milk there is a soluble protein, that is caseinogen. Caseinogen is the soluble milk protein. So this caseinogen, with the help of renin enzyme in the stomach, it helps to break down, means renin helps to break down caseinogen, or the soluble milk protein, into the insoluble form of casein. Casein is the insoluble form of milk protein, so that the milk protein stays longer in stomach for the digestion process. Then the fat, or the some part of the fat, also breaks down by the help of gastric lipase enzyme, and the mucus also mixes with the food, or to churn the food material, or to make the food moist, so that it can passes into the small intestine via the pyloric sphincter muscle region. So the stomach helps in the digestion process of food, or the protein or fat content of food. Then the stomach also have what? Also have some HCl secreting cells which kills the bacteria which we taken with our food. And the full process, the digestion in stomach, the full process of digestion in only stomach occurs for or lasts for 3 hours. So the digestion process in stomach lasts for 3 hours, and after the food breaks down into some smaller particles, it gets entered into the small intestine for further digesting process. So thank you so much for today's session and last class of the human digesting system. We will discuss this about the small intestine area, large intestine area and the anus region and the digestion process that occurs in the small intestine area. So thank you so much for today's session.